Yo, Elliot! Our friend Dan Zigfan has got a really strange question, and I'm going to give him a real strange answer. So those of you who get irritated with Elliot's weirdness might want to turn this one off. He wants to know, how is it that he has such big, broad shoulders, but such a tiny waist? So he's got big, squared up, strong shoulders, right? There's a lot of charge in his upper body, but very low charge, and I'm using that word charge, he didn't use that charge, in his hips. So he's got little female hips, this big, wide V upper body and back, right? So he's wondering if there's something I can do, exercises I can do to help develop this thickness, the strength, the size, the power in my hips and legs and waist, and at the same time diminish the amount of girth in my upper body. So the very first thing I'm going to offer you is a perspective, an idea, and you can do your own research on this, but it has to do with character structure and the science behind, or the work of scientists and psychologists Wilhelm Reich and Alexander Lowen. Basically, character structure, and I've talked about this in other videos, basically is how the body is formed due to the psychological, emotional character of the individual. What's going on here, right? What experiences have you had? What thoughts do you harbor? How do you respond emotionally to your environment, intrinsically and extrinsically, and how it manifests itself physically in your body? It's not too hard to see how the mind and the body are connected by simply, the fact that when you have a nightmare, you wake up and your heart's beating and your shirt's all wet. You've been sweating and your heart's beating because of something going on in your head. It's not that wild to consider that the things that are happening in our head manifest itself physically, right? It's really not that strange. And anyway, if you consider over the long period of time, it becomes chronic. The things that happen in our head will stimulate our body and then create chronic deformation of the body. Character structure. You take on the form of your most dominant thoughts physically, right? And when you're very young and your body's still very malleable, very soft and moldable, the formation of your body is that much more powerful. It happens that much faster and it sets in that much more. So if what I'm about to describe is kind of describes your relationship with your mommy, and things that you may have experienced when you were younger, it means that I'm guessing in many ways, but I'm going to give you some solutions, formed that way, right? It's just what you're going to have. But there's ways to minimize that impact, soften the musculature associated with breathing into your balls, because that's really my answer. So you're going to need to learn how to breathe into your balls, and then proceed from a strong place, become the strongest version of yourself, regardless of the structure. We work with what we have. When you were younger, so the upper body is associated with charging, bringing in. We know this because this is where we eat, right? This is where we inhale. This is where we receive messages from our environment, right? This is also where sexual pleasure is received, right? The mouth. Why do you think we kiss? Why do you think this whole area is associated with warm feelings when we invite? One of the first things we do when we want to have sex or we're being sexual with someone is we invite them close to our chest, our heart, our mouth, right? So this area is associated with charging in many different ways. The lower body, your hips down, is associated with discharge. And this discharge comes in the form of, when you put it in your mouth, where does it come out? It comes out of your butt, right? You discharge. You drink it, discharge. You're getting sexually charged, discharge, right? This is where you ejaculate, male and female. So we take in and we let out. Now, early on in your childhood, this is the typical, what you're carrying, what you're walking around with is what they would call, what Reich would have called, and this is kind of offensive, but just bear with me, the psychopathic character structure. It would be called the psychopath character structure. Anyway, so that character is formed by a mother being very seductive with a child And it doesn't necessarily mean that she was sexually stimulating or approaching the child. It merely means that she built up the boy to take the place of the father in a way. Perhaps the father wasn't as much of a man as he should have been. And the mother was like, well, you're gonna be my prince, you're gonna be my soldier, you're gonna take care of me, you're going to be the one, and built up the boy. So just imagine the charging associated with, yes, 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 I'm a big boy, I'm a good boy, I'm the one that's going to do it. And that's very stimulating, it's sexually stimulating to the child, although the child is not yet in a physiological position to discharge sexually, right? Your mom seduced you, but you can't fuck your mom. Right? You can't physically fuck your mom, and it's weird, it's incestual. So that part of your body, your hips, start to shrink because there's a closing down of the energy associated with discharge. It can't happen. So your body, your mind, your physiology starts to take the form of someone who's built up a lot of charge, but has no ability to discharge. So don't answer this in the comments area, but if this is if what I just described sounds like, you know what, my mom kind of did do that to me. My dad wasn't around much and my mom built me up to kind of take his place, then you know what? That's the type of character structure you've got. What do you do now? What we've got to do is we've got to create a situation where we bring charge back down into your hips. You've got to breathe into your balls. We've got to soften the musculature associated with your pelvic floor, and also get some of the charge in your upper body out. One of the ways to get the charge out of your upper body is doing bioenergetic exercises where you basically like punch, hit, kick, punch, hit, slam, drive your elbows back, and let it out. Whatever comes up, whatever you want to say, say. Fuck you, get off my back, leave me alone, stop it, why? Why is one that comes out all the time. Why? This is, without judging, this is the trapped emotion associated with being overcharged, overstimulated sexually as a child. Right? Again, when you use the term sexually, I'm talking about the energy. I'm not talking about boners. I'm not talking about intercourse. And we've got to bring charge back. Going to reduce the charge and then bring charge back into the hips. The best way to do that is with the bow, but in particular, the bow that I've showed you where you put your hands on your hips. My camera's about to run out, so here, boom. Hands on the hips, open your mouth, or lay over the bioenergetic stool with your hips on the top and breathe into your balls. You've got to soften the musculature associated with deep abdominal breathing. So do some research, look a little bit deeper. If I remember, I'll put some resources. Good luck, dude. Yo, Elliot,